Happy NFL Draft Day. It is finally here. You're watching the San Francisco 49ers Report by Chat Sports, and coming up on this pre-draft show, we have the latest on Brandon Aiyuk. Will San Francisco draft a wide receiver? Are the Niners going to trade up or trade back in the first round tonight? And also, we'll take a look at my Niners big board, the prospects that I think San Francisco could hone in on at multiple positions. Speaking of the draft, we will be live tonight right here on the show. Our coverage begins 90 minutes before the start of the 2024 draft, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 out on the West Coast. The video, the live show already scheduled, so you can bookmark that, set a reminder. Hope to see you all there. And with that, let's talk some Niners right now as some buzz heating up pre-draft. And this edition of the San Francisco 49ers Report by Chat Sports is sponsored by Game Time. If you're looking for last-minute tickets to a sporting event, comedy show, concert, theater event, make sure you download the Game Time app, and when you use the code CHATSPORTS, you get $20 off. You can see the view from your seat before you arrive, so when you get there, you know exactly what to anticipate, and you can put together these lifelong memories with some people that you really care about, because that's what sports are all about. They bring people of all walks of life together, and you can check out a game, you can check out a concert, you can take down some drinks, go to a comedy show, have some belly laughs. With the Game Time app, you can literally do anything, and it is the place for last-minute tickets. You want to go to a San Francisco Giants game right by McCovey Cove? You can do that. You want to go to a Niners game a little bit later this fall? Plenty of tickets available right now in the early going so that you can get ahead of the game and ahead of the competition. As far as the competition, there is no competition for the Game Time app. No last-minute price hikes. In fact, with the Game Time app, the more that you wait, the closer you get to the event, the more that the price drops, and they don't hit you with some of these ridiculous fees like some of their competitors. Download the Game Time app for free, use the code CHATSPORTS, and you can get $20 off your purchase. Shoot, if you're in the Detroit area tonight, you want to go to the draft tonight, tomorrow, Saturday, we'll be live all 3 days, every single round of the draft. You can use the Game Time app for that as well. All of that information available for you down in the comment section and in the description of this video. Let's obviously start off with the biggest storyline hovering around the Niners, and that's the latest with Brandon Aiyuk. The contractual situation, is he going to get moved tonight, night 1 of the NFL draft? Nobody really knows outside of the Niners, and maybe even the Niners don't even know what's going to happen with Aiyuk, the second-team All-Pro, a player who's emerged, who I think is still scratching the surface of what he can become. The buzz today is that the Niners want to keep Aiyuk, and they have to be blown away by an offer, a first-round pick, more compensation on top of that, maybe even a player who moves the needle on the Niners roster. If Aiyuk were to get dealt, there are 8 teams, I think, that make a lot of sense to me. The 3 that I think make the most sense are the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Indianapolis Colts, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Outside of that, and these are teams that have a need, who have been mentioned as Aiyuk suitors. Some of these teams also have a lot of dough that they can spend to give Aiyuk a contract extension. New York Giants, New England Patriots, Carolina Panthers, Buffalo Bills, and the Baltimore Ravens. All of those teams are kind of shopping for a legitimate number 1 wideout, but it's also a very deep wide receiver class. And for the Colts, Jags, and Steelers specifically, the Colts have the 15th overall pick. A lot of chatter. They're trying to move up to take one of the top wide receivers in the draft. If they can't, maybe they fork over a very lucrative offer to land Aiyuk, who I think would be a great number 1, and then Michael Pittman would be their number 2, and then you also have the running back Jonathan Taylor as their running back. You start to put together a really good offense under a great offensive-minded head coach in Shane Steichen for your young quarterback and Anthony Richardson. The Colts also have the 46th overall pick. As for the Jags, 17th overall, they've been mentioned a lot as an Aiyuk suitor. Some reports from Jacksonville that Aiyuk and his camp are also interested in the Jags, no state income tax. That's a lot different than in San Francisco, in the Bay Area, and in California. The Jags also have the 48th overall pick, and then the Steelers, a team that we've talked a lot about here on the show. They currently own and occupy the 20th overall pick. They want to get a legit wideout alongside George Pickens. They have a really good tight end on that roster in Pat Freiermuth. They always like to run the ball. They're trying to shore up that offensive line. The defense is in a great spot. Aiyuk would do wonders for that pass game that's been lackluster over the last several years. Peter Schrager of the NFL Network, Good Morning Football, in his mock draft that he released right before the draft, mentioned the Steelers as a possibility for an Aiyuk trade, and Peter Schrager is very tapped in to all of the happenings going on around the league and has a lot of sources within many organizations across the sport. He said, quote, "I still think there's a giant move to be made by Pittsburgh at wide receiver. Could it be for Brandon Aiyuk?" I wonder if Brandon Aiyuk's agent is going to call that fake news. If not, Schrager continued, "Brian Thomas is a special talent at a LSU who helped himself at the NFL Scouting Combine as much as any player at the position. I had this match in my first mock, and I am holding steady here." So ultimately, he does have the Steelers taking Brian Thomas, but I guarantee you they might make some calls on Brandon Aiyuk here. As for the Niners drafting a wide receiver, that's another story that I want to hit on here because Peter Schrager very tapped in. Daniel Jeremiah has a lot of sources within NFL buildings, and in both of their final mock drafts, they both have the Niners going with a wideout. Now, Daniel Jeremiah has the Niners taking Xavier Worthy, the speedster out of Texas. He's 165 pounds, but lightning quick. 4.21 40-yard dash, set the record at the NFL Combine back in March. Very good route runner, underrated in that regard. Very good wide receiver in totality, not just as a vertical threat. He's a very elusive punt returner, some drop issues, but can track the deep ball and has consistent production. Of note here is that Kyle Shanahan played wide receiver at Texas. And Jeremiah, on the Xavier Worthy selection for the Niners, said this is my favorite fit in the first round. We saw what Tank Dell did in a similar offensive system with Houston last year, and we know what Mike McDaniel has been able to build with so much speed at receiver in Miami. Worthy gives Kyle Shanahan a similar weapon. And they also, in their mocks, Jeremiah and Schrager, did not have the Niners trading Brandon Aiyuk. Peter Schrager has the Niners going with Worthy's teammate, Adonai Mitchell. If Mitchell's still on the board, this pick would make some sense. Consider it insurance for a wide receiver room that's the buzz of the league. A lot of you get mad at me for talking about all these Aiyuk trade rumors, all of the speculation. It is the talk of the league going into draft night. As for the Niners trading up or back, San Francisco has 10 picks total in the NFL draft. A lot of compensatory picks the last couple of days, right? And I don't think that that's going to hold. I don't think that the Niners are going to be chalk as far as their draft selections. I think they might try to move up in the first round. They might try to trade out of the first round if offensive linemen and wide receivers, players that they covet, players that they like, start to drop a little bit. They trade up into the 30s in the second round, the 40s in the second round, and then they have that 63rd overall pick, and then you get two really quality players with adding additional draft compensation, like maybe a future second, maybe a second this year, maybe another third. So keep that in mind and remember this conversation here when we're a few hours from now. My Niners big board for the first round. I think San Francisco has these players atop their big board, and it wouldn't surprise me if one of them is a Niner at the end of the night. Now, some people are going to say, you listed all these players, Chase. Of course, one of them is going to go. Well, there's 32 selections in the first round. And this is how I think the Niners are valuing some of these players on their big board. But also, keep in mind that how the draft transpires up until the 31st overall pick changes things later in the first round. And it could cause San Francisco to move up, move back, or stay firm at 31. At offensive tackle, I think the Niners really like Troy Fuatanu out of Washington, Talise Fuaga out of Oregon State, Amarius Mims out of Georgia, Tyler Guyton, Oklahoma, Jordan Morgan, Arizona, Kingsley Suamataia out of BYU, Roger Rosengarten out of Washington. At guard, Graham Barton is my guy out of Duke. He can play center. He could play tackle too. Center, Jackson Powers Johnson out of Oregon. Zach Frazier out of West Virginia. Cornerback would not be a move that surprises me for the Niners, if they just go best player available at 31. And cornerback is a sneaky need for this team. Their secondary struggled at the end of last year. It's a preeminent position on a football roster. And keep in mind that Charvarius Ward, Diamador Lenore, Ambry Thomas, Isaac Yiadom, Chase Lucas, Rock Ya-Sin, all on expiring deals. And if you want to get younger and go best player available, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Nate Wiggins, or a Swiss Army knife, a chess piece, Cooper DeJean makes a lot of sense. Wide receiver spot, Adonai Mitchell, Xavier Worthy in the 20s or at 31, Xavier Legette potentially at 31. You might have to move up for Brian Thomas. Edge rusher, Chop Robinson, Penn State, Darius Robinson out of Mizzou. If Laiatu Latu falls out of UCLA, the man just gets after the quarterback, but a lot of teams are scared shitless about the neck injury because he had to medically retire from football a couple of years ago. And then there's talk that Illinois defensive tackle Johnny Newton, Jerzon Newton, could go in the top 15. But if he falls to the Niners at 31, that fits the profile for defensive tackle that they could really, really like. Cannot wait for the draft. We do so many mocks, prospect breakdowns, draft analysis. Now, it all leads us to this moment, the NFL draft, where we get to see which players are going to the Niners, what we think of all of these selections, and we get to take a look at the future for San Francisco. We'll catch you soon here on the 49ers Report. Hope to see you all there. Peace.